Today we've been joined by a very special individual. He is someone who has given us new hope in terms of motor racing in Sri Lanka, especially Sri Lanka's aspirations in terms of having someone representing us when it comes to Formula One sports. Thank you very much, Yevan David, for accepting my invitation to feature on the show today.
Hi everyone, I'm all right, thank you.
You're the first ever individual, Yevan, who had won an international karting event at your age category. You're still 13 years of age. Can you briefly explain, how this all started and where this journey of, getting into motorsports began?
I was about 5 years old and I tried karting in Sri Lanka for the first time at the Bandar circuit, and I really liked it. It sort of just clicked in my mind. So then I asked my father if I could race professionally, and at the time I was living in Singapore. So I started racing professionally in Singapore. I started driving in 2014, started racing in 2015, and since then I've just been fully dedicated to racing.
Is it something that came naturally to you, or it was something that you, because your father was a professional racer, that you kind of, moved into the racing?
It sort of came naturally to me, and then my father, pushed me to keep going, and he put a lot of effort in to try and give me the best opportunity possible. So most of it came naturally, and I knew my father raced before, but he could never race, globally. So now that I'm doing it, it's sort of, a dream come true. And at the age of 5, I never would have thought that I'd been here, and to be in F1 in maybe another 10 years' time, that would be mission complete.
That'd be great news if Yevan David could go on to make it big, and Sri Lankans will be proud. Yevan, now at which point, everybody knows that Yevan David is from Sri Lanka, but you're living in abroad. At which point of time, at which age did you move out of Sri Lanka?
So I moved out of Sri Lanka when I was about 3 years old, and I moved to Singapore because my dad got a job there, and I was raised in Singapore. But every year I'd go to Sri Lanka, I'd see my grandparents, I see all my family. So I was still, fully Sri Lankan, just living in Singapore. And this year I came out to Italy to race here, and I can't fly back to Singapore or Sri Lanka and here for the races because of the coronavirus, and it's very hard to travel. So I've just stayed in Italy for the whole of this year, and I go back at the end of the year.
At this point of time, you are living in Italy, you said. Now, are you living on your own, or is your parents living with you?
So my parents and my siblings are back in Singapore, and I'm living with a guardian here who takes care of me, and it sort of acts like my parents. And then in around November time, once the races are done, I go back to Singapore.
Miss your parents and siblings?
The last time I saw them was, I think, at the start of the year in January. So yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. It's a bit difficult, but it's not like impossible to cope with.
Can try a bit of Sinhalese, Yevan?
Well, I tried to speak Sinhalese, when I was younger, but my parents didn't really have the time to teach me, they said. So yeah, like since I was 5 years old, I was just racing, school. So I didn't really have much time to learn another language. But I think by the time I turn 18, I will be able to speak it fluently.
Now, when it comes to US motorsports, like I've said earlier, not many people would identify their passion at a very young age, and you've identified it at the age of 5. And there goes a added weight when you start something new at a very young age, which is academics. I'm trying to kind of get an understanding about your regime. How are you managing academics and then being a professional racer?
Well, I mean, I do this online school, and it basically allows me to do school, at the races or on my off days. And since I'm traveling almost every 2 weeks, it's hard to go to an actual school. So this online school, I can do it wherever I want. and so that allows me to get a lot more work done than going to actual school. So the balance is actually quite even, and I'm able to get a lot of work done.
What type of syllabus are you following? Online school in the sense, I think it's based out of Singapore, is that right?
The online school is actually based in England, and basically, this online school was made before COVID. You know, it was just made for sort of athletes or stay-at-home kids to, you know, do work online instead of going to real school. So since I'm traveling to every 2 weeks, like I said, it's hard to go to real school. So this is the perfect school for me, and that's why I joined it.
What type of subjects do you follow?
At the moment, I'm doing math, English, and science, and soon I'll be doing geography and history, and maybe art and design.
Now, obviously, we understand that motorsports is your passion, and obviously, you would want to continue doing it. Apart from that, what type of things are you planning on doing in terms of your academics? What do you think about that?
I'm fully dedicated to racing, and you know, there's a lot of options in terms of GT cars and Formula and rally cars. So there's a lot of, you know, different options to choose if the Formula One path doesn't take place. So that's why I'm fully dedicated to racing, and I haven't really thought about anything else.
How about your training regime? Now, if I talk about an athlete, maybe a person who is competing at the 100 meters race or a cricketer or a rugger ride, they got to do a lot of physical activities. But what's important for a racer? What type of things do you need to focus on to be a good racer?
Well, in terms of the physical training side, you want to train your neck and arms mainly. The upper body is quite important in driving, you know, turning the wheel and, you know, acting against G forces because it's very hard on your neck as well. So mainly training the upper body, but then going for runs as well to increase your stamina. So really racing training is like the whole body pretty much. That's why it's quite intense. And but it's not been too hard for me. I do like training almost every day. But for sure, as you get older and older, it gets tougher and tougher.
You spoke about you need to work out on your upper body and neck and shoulders. What type of workouts do you do, Yavan?
Well, for example, I'd put a band around my head and I'd put it on like a pole at the side, and I'd stretch my neck like this to train this part. And then, for example, my arms and shoulders, I'd just do maybe weights or stretch the band like this, just to, you know, build biceps or triceps. And that'll help me, you know, with the wheel on the cart because it's sometimes quite hard to push, especially when there's a lot of grip.
When I just talk about the regime of you, Yaman, one thing that comes to my mind is that everybody can drive, but not everyone can drive fast and not crash. What type of a mindset would you have prior to going to a race?
Well, I'm not really worried about crashing or getting injured going into a race. I'm just fighting for the best result possible, and that's all that's on my mind, you know. You don't really think about crashing or getting in a bad accident. You just focus on going ahead and making up as many positions as possible.
What do you think is important for a professional motorsports person to basically drive fast and be focused?
Well, for sure, the number one thing to have is probably consistency, the ability to not make many mistakes. If you make a lot of mistakes, you can be fast, but if you make a lot of mistakes, it won't be good. It's better to be slow and make no mistakes, to be fast and make a lot and a lot of mistakes. So the key is probably consistency. And there's a few other factors like, you know, keeping calm, keeping relaxed, you know, don't overdrive the car, keep it easy. So probably one of the most important things is consistency and relaxation.
Now, shifting my attention to the International Karting Championship that you won about a couple of months back, that was one of the biggest achievement by a Sri Lankan at that age group. How did you prepare for that particular race, Yevan?
Well, it was the first time I was going into Belgium for a race, and it was actually quite cold at the time, and I've never really driven in the cold before. So I was just trying, you know, to keep relaxed, you know, just drive as I usually do. And going into qualifying, we were actually quite fast. and we qualified in a good position. And then in the heat that I won, I I was just fast, and I overtook the whole race, and I got to P1, and I won the race.
During the start of the interview, I said we have given some new hope for Sri Lankans, for someone to represent us at the Formula One level. Now, there's a lot of stages that you need to pass in order for you to get into Formula One. We've got to start with Formula 4, 3, 2, and then 1. What's your understanding in terms of how we need to get to that level?
Well, the main thing right now is focusing on uh, going to Formula 4 as soon as possible, because that's the first step to making it up the Formula ladder. So if I get into Formula 4 by 2023, that will be, the number one step accomplished. And then hopefully Formula 3, 2, and then 1. So right now, the aim is just on Formula 4 for 2023.
Talking about the junior karting that you are taking part at this point of time, what's the average speed that you hit during the races? Maximum, maybe you can tell me.
Well, I mean, the maximum speed in the engine that I'm running, it's about, in the category that I'm running, sorry, it's 130 kilometers per hour. But you can for the races, there's this limiter on the engine that makes the maximum speed 130 kilometers per hour. So in practice, like on a non-race weekend, if you take that limiter off, you can go more than 135. But this, like at all the races, the maximum is for sure 130 or 125.
In Sri Lanka, there's an age limit for someone to get a driver's license. They will not be able to drive bigger vehicles. What about?
I've tried, driving a car once, just in a parking lot. I was only 12, I think. And I already know how a car works and everything. I already know how to drive it. It's just a shame that I have to wait another 4 years until I can get my license. But yeah, for sure, if I had a license, I'd be able to drive like anyone else on the road.
Formula 4, is there any age gaps, Yevan? At which point you can start Formula 4 sports?
Usually in Europe, it's minimum 15 years old that you can get in. So aiming to maybe like test when I'm 14 years old, which is actually in a week, actually. I turn 14 in a week. And yeah, so next year I'm just planning to test Formula 4. And then in 2023, I should be able to try and race.
Let's find out your understanding about the differences between Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2 and Formula 1. Let's begin from karting to Formula 4. What's that gap that is holding Formula 4 and then junior karting apart?
So in karting, there's the mini category, which is around 8 to 12 years old. And that's just, sort of the beginner class, where you learn everything. Then you go into the junior category, where it's 12 to 14, and it's actually quite competitive. And then, like, after that, it's the senior category, where it's 15 to 30 years old. And the senior category is the year where you want to do at maximum, 1 or 2 years, and then go into Formula 4. And so that's what I'm planning to do, do the senior category next year and just do 1 year. And then after that, it's Formula 4. Once you get to Formula 4, you do 1 or 2 years. And if you get with a good team, they'll put you into Formula 3. And then Formula 4 and Formula 3, it's actually very spread out globally. There's the Italian Championship, there's the Spanish Championship. But once you get to Formula 2, there's only one Formula 2 championship. So if you do get into Formula 2, you have a very good chance of getting into Formula 1. So then if you perform well in Formula 2 and you get good results, you might get picked up by an F1 team and bam, you're in F1.
At this point of time, at the age of 13, what is your confidence level in terms of you getting into Formula 1, Yevan?
I mean, right now, in terms of the financial side, it's quite difficult. We're trying to look for sponsors for next year and, just trying to look at the financial side of getting into cars. But for me, I think the racing side, I'm probably prepared to get into the Formula Two or Formula One. Of course, you have to go through Formula Three and Four first, but I think I'm mentally ready, and I have some results, and I'm actually getting better in the races. So soon I'll be able to get quite good results and get recognized by people, and be able to get a team for Formula Four or some sponsors. So looking on the racing side, as long as I get good results and good finishes, I'll be able to get a good seat for Formula 4.
There you go. Yevan David has the confidence within himself to represent Sri Lanka in Formula One sports, and he is mentally prepared as well. I was about to come to this particular topic of sponsorship, and then who are the people funding you at this point of time, Yevan? Who's basically funding all these races, and who is taking care of you at this point of time? Are you self-funded?
At this point, my father is, doing his job and getting money to try and put me in another year of karting in Europe for next year. The past few years, we've got earned the money to put me into Europe for this year, and my mom has just started a job as well, just trying to get the money for me to continue racing. So at this point, there isn't any big sponsors at the moment, so we're still trying to look for them. But I think by next year it should be all sorted out.
I think Yevan David has the talent of getting to that level. It's just that the right support is required financially, and we hope Yevan, that you should be able to find those sponsors, and will help you to basically get to the next level. Shifting my attention from the sporting aspect and the sponsorship and about this funding matters. When it comes to an athlete, there's always weaknesses one would have that would prevent them from getting to the next level. What type of weaknesses that you have identified within yourself, and how are you trying to kind of overcome those?
Probably one of the main weaknesses is maybe physical strength. I don't have the best stamina and energy to do something physical for a long period of time. So I'm still trying to improve my stamina, improve that aspect of the training, and I should prepare me for the longer stages of racing.
Obviously, when you start something, there's always someone who you look up to, and if you have started the sport at the age of 5 and you would not have anyone else apart from your parents giving you advices, what type of a message did your father give you, him being a professional racer, for you to kind of pursue motorsports as a career?
Well, he just sort of pushed me and told me to keep going. Don't look back and stop, because he told me I was talented and I'd make it through. So I've just kept listening and kept going, and I never really gave up. So yeah, here I am, and I'm thankful that he pushed me through, because now look where I am in Europe, representing Sri Lanka. So um, if I continue this never give up attitude, I should be in a good place in a couple of years.
A lot of wisdom there for a 13-year-old individual, Yevan, and we're all proud of you. Talking about always you would have, idols growing up. Who are you idealizing in terms of motorsports?
Well, at the moment, it's probably Max Verstappen, championship leader, and I've supported him ever since 2016. So yeah, looking up to him, you can see that he's the one who's never give up and just kept pushing through, and now he's leading the Formula One World Championship. So he's probably my main idol next to Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest in Formula One and all of motorsport. So those two are probably my biggest idols.
During the pandemic, when it started in the year of 2020, I basically did my research prior to this particular interview. You did not have the opportunity to basically engage in real racing, but you've been doing some slim racing. But I would like to explain to the viewers, what is slim racing? Can you briefly explain me?
Well, sim racing is basically, you get a simulator, like a wheel and pedals, and you connect it to a computer, and uh, that computer is connected to the screen, right? And then you basically drive on that. and you can join leagues and competitions. And some of the big ones have prize pools, so they can give you like 200 USD or 2000 USD depending on which championship it is. So sim racing, it's actually quite realistic these days. They've improved like so much, and they're, the next generation of racing almost. So since I wasn't able to race last year in real life, did sim racing for the whole year, and I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of new things about cars as well. And now at the start of the year, I moved on from sim racing and went back to real karting after the pandemic calmed down.
So it looks like sim racing is something that anyone could get into. Is that right?
Yes.
When you spoke about Max Verstappen, you took part in one of those races about a couple of weeks back, and I was like looking at the history of that race, who are the people who had won that junior karting championship, and I found out Max Verstappen was one of the winners back in the days. Now, you said that you've been engaging in online education, and then prior to and then you are basically doing training in terms of motorsports as well. Can you briefly explain me what is your regime looks like? What do you do on a regular day?
Well, a regular day was probably, wake up, have breakfast, maybe do some, probably do training in the morning, and then by lunchtime, I do my homework. After lunch, I do maybe another hour of homework just to catch up after not doing any at the race weekends. And then after that, I probably chill out, do some gaming, play with my friends, and yeah, just chill out for the evening.
Apart from your father, can you explain me, Yevan, who other people helped you out along the journey?
Well, probably my family, they gave a lot of support. They told me to keep going and push me through, and they never doubted me. So they're probably the number ones that pushed me. And yeah, I'm just thankful for them. They're the people who always never didn't believe in me.
And also, Yevan, now a lot of people are watching you, a lot of people are supporting you from Sri Lanka. And what type of a kind of a message would you want to give it to those people who are watching this particular interview, and tell me, what do you actually need from us as Sri Lankans to basically, get you to that level of Formula One sports?
Well, I'd probably say, just thank you for all the support, because they gave me, a lot of support after that qualifying heat win. And it just showed how proud they were of me. And it was a great feeling, to represent my country for my racing career to Sri Lanka. And, I just have to say thank you, because they gave me so much support. And probably for the little ones that want to do something like me and make it to F1 or just do karting in Europe, I just say never give up. I've put so much hard work in this past few years, and it's all paying off. So just never give up.
Talking about the foreseeable future, what type of races are you planning on participating in the future, and what is in line for you in the future?
Um, well, for the rest of the year, I have about 8 more races. So in the next 3 weeks, I have one in south of Italy and two in Spain. So it'll be a busy 3 weeks. It'll be quite hot, especially because it's the middle of summer. But yeah, just looking forward to it. I've had a week off this week. Just relaxing, taking my mind off racing, and it should be good for next week. I'm excited to get back to it, and it should be a good race.
And it was indeed a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation to feature on the show today, Yevan. And on behalf of the Sports Center and as News First, we wish you all the best and good luck on your future endeavors.
Yeah, thank you very much.